With the RGB, it just stops over here. There wouldn't be an additional digit added. And that was what happened at first. And then mine wasn't what? Showing the alpha value. So when you add the A, that means you're adding an alpha value. So you also have to come to the comma and add another what? Digit of your choice. Then that is the digit that you'll be using to be controlling the what? The transparency or the deepness. So over here we had the RGBA, and then we had the last digit, which stands for the A or the alpha. So 1 is 100, and when you convert it to decimal, you see that 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 can be equivalent to what? Percentages, as in 100%, 20, 30, 40, 50. But then you use the digits. If not, we can use the percentage themselves. So we want to bring this to the center here, which is what will lead us to CSS Flexbox. And I'll do a quick view on that, so that when we meet again for tomorrow, I will make more emphasis on it. Yes, because the time has reached for us to end the class. Yeah. So how do we bring this to the center here? We would have talked about positions. I've dropped some note about positions. We have several ways to bring, center a div. This is basically a div. This class that we are handling here, this class here is a div. Okay, it's a div. It's pointing to a particular div. So we were to look at positions as well as CSS flexboxes. There are also ways of changing the placement of objects or elements on the screen. But then I'll talk about the display type. So let's copy this style, this class here. Ctrl+C, and then say, let's paste it there. Bracket open, bracket close. Now, before we continue, the flexbox. Okay. The flexbox is actually a way of controlling elements using flex properties or specific flex properties. Okay. All right. So with the flex, we have what we call the display property. Display. When we say display, we set the display to flex. Then what happens? The whole of that particular element now obeys the flex rule. If it is an inline or it's a block element, it automatically switch out of those type of displays. Now they will now be waiting for you to now give them command to either become block or inline. So I don't know whether I'm clear here. I realize that there are 3 Visual Studio Code on Microsoft Store. Oh. Okay. Let's carry on. So with the flex properties, we have a special property called align items. Align items. What does it do? It moves items from where they are to the center in a vertical order. So let's say from top to bottom, it moves the item to the center in a vertical way. If the item is at the top, it brings it to to the vertical center. So we say that align items center. Alright, so what happened? It moved the element from its initial position to the center that we have here. Now, how do we move it to the center in a horizontal way? with that one we say justify content, and that one we say center, and that will move it to the center. So we have to keep it in mind. Align items, move an item to the center, and also justify content will move an item horizontally. But then, is it only center that we have? We can use end or flex end. The end, let me remove this property, the justify content property. The end, this is the item here, this is the element here, H element. The end will move the item to the end vertically of the screen. Or sometimes we can say flex end, flex dash end, since we have converted the item to a flex item. So we select move to the end. What about flex start? Flex start. Then I move it to the starting of the screen. But then if we want to move it to the center, then we say center. It has moved to the center. The same way, we can experiment with the justify content. Once the display is on flex mode, we will say justify dash content. Once it highlights, hit enter, and that will select it for you. We will say start, flex start. Flex start. That will what? Try to move, position the item horizontally, but then it should be at the starting of what the horizontal positioning. And when we say center, it should move the item to the center in a horizontal manner. When we say flex end, what happens? It moves it to the ending in a horizontal manner. But when we say center, then horizontal way, go to the center. Then we will now add the one that moves vertically down. That is the align items. It's not text align, no. Align items. Center. And then it moved the item to the center. Then the text being small, we add a font size property. Font size of what? Let's say 45 pixels, so that it grows. And since the text is black, why not change the color to white? That is all. We are done. Have I lost someone? Is there any question? Please, is there anyone who doesn't get it, so that I can go over one more time? Yeah. Please, are you all okay? Good. Stantec, go ahead and ask the question. Yeah.
So are you trying to tell us that the option can only work when we apply flex before we can start using this command?
Come again. Ask the question again.
Like the code in the CSS, it will only start working when we set it to flex before we can start using all this command.
Yes. Let's get it to work is flex. That is all.
Okay, sir.
All right. So that is it for now. But then, what if there is an additional item that is being added? Let's say inside the head, inside that same header, we have a P item. Let's say this is the University of Real Code. Join us today. What happens? Now, when we give a command of display flex, automatically it changes the items to an inline